But first, to breaking news in Canberra, and we're joined by 730's political editor Chris Uhlmann with the news that the government and the Greens are close to a deal on a carbon tax. Chris, how close?
Well, I've heard from several people today that they're very close, one even suggesting that a deal had been struck, but I think that the best thing that we can say at the moment, Steve, is that significant progress has been made with a formal deal expected within the next week and a half. And obviously today's talks were important, but they have been moving towards this for some time now. So significant progress is about as far as we can go, but you can expect that there will be a deal announced, and that deal announced within the next week or so.
And obviously there's a few sticking points that we've seen, Chris. What have been the major sticking points in these negotiations?
Yeah, well, as you know, Steve, that the government wanted a fairly low starting price. It's looking at, it wants industry compensation. It may certainly want compensation for electricity generators. All of those things are things that the Greens are finding reasonably hard to swallow. They then want complementary measures which will drive the take-up of wind and solar power. I think the important thing to remember in all of this is that the outcome for all players is extremely important. The government obviously needs a deal, and a deal that it can sell, but I think the Greens also need a deal to come out of this. Don't forget that last time around with the carbon pollution reduction scheme, that the Greens knocked that one back. So I think politically all sides in this have a lot at stake, and all of them want an outcome. So it does seem very likely that there will be a deal reached. And of course there is perhaps one wild card in the pack, and that's Tony Windsor, who has said all along that there might not actually be a deal. So we wait with bated breath to hear from him.
Chris, anything more you can tell us about the independents and where they're at this point in the deal?
I've obviously been in touch with everyone I can this evening. There are a lot of people holding their cards close to their chest. I did speak briefly to Tony Windsor. He didn't want to really say anything more about it at the moment. But I think that the one thing that the government doesn't want to do is to come out with something at the moment and then pitch it into the last week of Parliament before the winter break. So they're looking at announcing something after that week is over.
Chris Uhlmann, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.